Welcome to another episode of the Imagine a World podcast. My name is Irene van Gent and today I'm talking to Leonie Emma Roxs, who started Pure Kakaw together with Erik Westerduin. Pure Kakaw has the aim to bring unique quality cacao directly and ethically sourced from the farm to people. The last 2 years I have become very fond of the power of ceremonial cacao. I even wrote about it in my first novel, I Am Sarah, that has been published in Holland last year. Today we will talk about imagining and visualizing new worlds and the connection to cacao to do so. So first of all, Leonie, thank you for being here. I'm very happy to have you on the show. And I would like to start with the question, what would your ideal world look like?
Thank you for welcoming and inviting me on the show. What a big question to start with. The visual image that comes up when you say an ideal world is a very green world that I see. I often have images coming up, so I'll just describe whatever I see. And the people in it are really embodied, like part of we are nature. I really feel that we are nature. So in this vision, in this visual, I see us as really a part of the world, and there's no separation between the trees and the buildings and the people. It's all like one beautiful whole, working together, finding balance again and again within a beautiful, compassionate way. That's what I feel when you say that.
Yeah, beautiful. And how do you look like, because this world is something that it seems that we're far away from it at this moment. I'm here where I'm living now. There is a huge garden, so I'm with my feet on the grass like a lot, but I've lived in cities as well. So, and there it was, of course, it wasn't. And as I get it more into this connection between me and nature, because I can completely understand what you're talking about. It seems that to me that it's quite difficult to feel this connection again. And if it's difficult for me, it must be difficult for a lot of people because of the mix between the world where we're living in now and the world that that you described. Let's say it like this. I mean, do you understand what I mean? Like,
yeah. So are you asking how I see that?
No, like how would we? I think if it's so difficult for us now, it's like a step-by-step process to get there. If this is the ideal world, because I can totally agree with you on this aspect of an ideal world, the connection to nature. So if you were to visualize or imagine how would we get there? Which steps could we take if we take it slowly, because overnight probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah, what comes up for me is that in a way I think we all are already there. And the way I see this ideal world is more about a presence. And I feel that presence is always already within us. And I definitely recognize what you're saying, that in a busy world we have a lot of distraction from that presence. But I really truly feel, as one of the biggest truths in my life, for me, that it's already there. So for me, I'm really happy living also in the city. I do also have a lot of connection with like walking in the forest, and also the smaller forest here. I am very lucky. I have a sight on trees from my house. So I'm super happy with that. But also for me, nature is, I mean, I think it would be, I would be interested in, I have a friend who lives in Dubai, and they have really not a lot of trees, like almost none, I think, there. They have plants inside the house, but there's almost no green around them. So I'm curious what would happen if I would live there for a while. I'm curious what would happen. I can imagine it might be more difficult to connect with nature, but I somehow have really a conviction. Conviction? Yeah, I'm convinced that because we are nature, that I have a cycle. I feel very blessed that I'm a woman and I have a cycle. So I have this monthly reminder of I am nature. I am nature, so I'm as close to nature as I can be if I just look and if I just feel what is happening within me. There's always the cycles. They're always happening, day and night, sunrise, sunset, also when there's no green. So maybe that gives a little bit of a idea about how I think about an ideal world. I think it's like a shift within ourselves, actually.
Yeah, it's more like feel the nature in yourself without the need to be in nature. That's exactly.
Yeah, and you can still have that need, but my adagum, how do you, sometimes I will be looking for the words in English, but my way of looking at things is I try, it's not always easy. I try to welcome everything. So if I feel lost because I'm in a city or I don't feel connection, so I don't really feel lost often because I'm in a city, but if I just feel lost and I don't feel a connection, I try to welcome, okay, this is what is here now. I try to like radically welcome everything that's here. And that somehow gives me a kind of beautiful portal to being. And being for me is a big step towards that ideal world.
Yeah. I can see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. This is for me. Is this? I'm in this phase where I'm just playing with life, a lot of things, and there also this presence comes to mind. Like, and when you're present, you can connect easily or more easily with a lot of things. Yeah.
And I do see what you're saying, like how do we get there? It would be beautiful to co-create with each other a world that I would also be I feel my whole heart would light up if I would see more space for forests, space for slowing down our work, slowing down our daily lives so that there's more space for just being, because I think that's really a beautiful, happy way of living. So I definitely feel what you're saying. It's also a beautiful sight that we hopefully see evolving around us more and more in the coming time.
Yeah. More space to just be. I think that is the most beautiful approach to life, which I see around me here now. I mean, I can't imagine that I stepped into this world where a lot of people are trying to just be, and or they just are. They don't even try. They just do it, which is very interesting for me as a person who always wanted to do or create and this being makes life a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and from the being, I think also if you really dare to trust and let go of what you think you have to, like the must, then I'm also practicing this, because it's not like it's always easy for me. It's a practice. Everything is a practice for me, and I'm practicing to really, really trust on the flow of where my energy is going and where my true curiosity is going. And sometimes I am like just being could evolve in relaxing too much, but then I'm also not welcoming. Just being for me is not the same as sitting and doing nothing, but from just being comes a lot of doing in a very natural way.
Yeah.
Without a force, it's not forced doing. It's a natural flow. So I think that's a super interesting way of doing through being.
Yeah. I have the same, and I think this is a nice connection to cacao as well, because for me, at times when I want to just be or create something new, but I want to have this silent moment before I start doing something, I use I make myself a small cup of cacao. I do a small ceremony, and then in a few minutes, most of the time, I'm changing into this creative being. And sometimes it's because sometimes I start dancing, sometimes I start writing, sometimes I have a conversation with my guides. It's different all the time, but this is for me the beauty of the cacao is bringing me much closer to this natural being, and after, so this helped me a lot in the past, and now I can see that I don't always need the cacao to get there anymore.
Yeah.
So can you, maybe for those who are not familiar with the workings of the cacao, can you tell a little more about what is the ceremonial cacao that you bring into the world, and what can it help you with? Because I only have my personal experience, and probably you know a lot more.
The cacao that we share throughout our project of Pure Kakaw is high quality cacao. In a way, we are connected personally to the farms that we work with in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Peru. So it comes from places where there's beautiful food forests, so very healthy, regenerated soil and earth. And the people who are working there work with a lot of love and attention, and often with a tradition. In Guatemala, connected to the Mayan tradition. In Peru, connected to the Inca tradition. So there's a lot of wisdom in working with nature for food also, and a lot of humbleness also. I also always notice when we're at the farms, there is this realization that it's really a gift, everything we are given. And this connects to what I think cacao is. It's such a gift of nature. It is, first of all, very nourishing for your whole body. So if you drink, the cacao we are talking about is different than chocolate, different than chocolate milk. Ages ago, in the times of the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Olmecs and these Mesoamerican ancient cultures, they worked with cacao, which grows on a tree in a fruit, in a rugby-like fruit. Cacao beans were fermented, dried, and ground, roasted and ground, which made it possible to dissolve in a drink. So these old cultures work with cacao to make a very highly revered drink. And they knew it was very nourishing for the body. And it was also connected to a lot of spiritual ceremonies, and seen sometimes as a gateway more to the spirit world, also given to people who were at funerals, who were buried. They were often given cacao with them for the journey across.
Okay.
Cacao has been connected to a lot of beautiful also mystery in life, but also in a way of supporting transformation. That's how I see the essence. And of course, with these older cultures, it's difficult to know exactly what the people did, because it's very long back, and the written accounts are not super. There's also a lot destroyed about the knowledge, but this is what we know. about these older traditions. And cacao, what it can do for you, like here, we were very surprised that, first of all, that we didn't know about this whole history, and that cacao is such an amazing gift of nature.
Mm-hmm.
We knew it was a superfood. It's often a bit known like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't know about these traditional cacao drinks, and that was way different than chocolate milk. So when we came across those drinks in our travels through Latin America, and we tasted it, first of all, very pure, beautiful, different, rich flavors inside the drink. But then also the effect it had, it was, I always describe the effect that cacao has on your state of being. It's like it's a loving embrace of nature, like the warmest motherly hug that you can get. And yeah, I'm so in love with it. And in this way, I think it connects you in a beautiful way with your own heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often called a heart opener, because it's often used if you drink cacao in the form of ceremony, then it's often used also to connect to the things in your life from the heart. So have a perspective of loving awareness to look at things that are also maybe confronting and challenging, and to welcome them. Yeah, is this a bit of an answer?
Yeah, definitely. And do you also recognize the idea that when you when the cacao is present in your life, that you don't always have to drink it, but in order to feel this loving feeling, because at a certain point it becomes just a part of you, I think.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is beautiful. I think it illuminates something that's already in there, in us.
Yeah.
And of course, also, like, every food has its effect on our body.
Mm-hmm.
And cacao also has its effects on our body because of the substances that are in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it does definitely also do something biologically with your body. It's very healthy for your cardiovascular system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very high in antioxidants, in magnesium. It keeps your heart and blood vessels flexible and young. And what it does, it has a theobromine in it, and that's theobromine.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that gives you energy. So it raises your heart rate, but it also opens up the vessels, a vasodilator. So it doesn't increase the blood pressure. Sometimes it even lowers it, but because the veins are more open and your heart is pumping a bit faster, it allows the blood to flow more into your ligaments in your brain, more blood flow throughout your body, and carrying all these nutrients that it has to those parts. Plus, also in your brain, it helps the release of anandamine, endorphins, serotonine. So things that often make you feel positive-minded, often is like a subtle, happy, gentle, loving feeling. That's definitely also supported by the effect biologically of cacao. And I definitely agree with you that, yeah, it's like you have a relationship. If you build a relationship with cacao and get to know what it tells you, you can just in a way, when you have this relationship, and it's a strong relationship that you have built, then you can also just think about cacao and realize, this is the awareness that it lights up within me. And then only by thinking about it, you could also feel it, and thereby enlightening it in you without drinking it. I think that's definitely possible. Yeah.
Nice. And so you came across, during your travels, you came across this drink. You started experimenting with it. And then you started Pure Kakaw, or how did this happen that you thought, okay, I want to share this with more people? And so how did it come about?
Well, it came about. Erik is the initiator of the idea of bringing it to the Netherlands. Erik, with whom I started Pure Kakaw, we lived in Nicaragua and for a while, and we had tasted before. Before Nicaragua, we have lived in the Amazon in Colombia, and that's the place where we saw each other after 5 months of not seeing each other, when we were just fresh in a relationship. So it was an interesting way of long distance and then seeing each other again in the Amazon in Colombia after 5 months. And Erik brought a big beautifully formed shape of cacao, of 100% pure cacao, to the Amazon to share with me, because he had connected more with cacao already on his travels, and he had realized, this is a very interesting, beautiful plant medicine, beautiful product also to share. And so when we lived in the Amazon in Colombia, for the first week when we lived there, every day we did our work in the morning, and then we sat together and we drank a cacao drink together. And this formed such a beautiful, drinking it every day. The effect of cacao is quite subtle. Sometimes you won't notice it, but by drinking it every day, after a week, I realized, wow, this is what it does. It's very subtle, and it's such a loving, supportive energy. It really gave us a kind of loving cocoon to connect with each other again after having seen each other for 5 months. So, and also being with the feelings of, I'm not sure what I feel anymore after this time. And, it's also, it was quite also a bit difficult and confronting to having been apart from each other for a while and then seeing each other again. And I really realized, wow, cacao really gives a beautiful support in discovering, investigating, just feeling whatever is there and connecting with whatever is there. And that's where we also, that's where I was touched very deeply by the effect of cacao. And this is also where we both began to dream of, my God, this is such an amazing, beautiful drink. How can we let the people home taste this and let them get to know this and share it with our friends and family? We cannot keep this to ourselves. It's way beautiful for that. So later, when we were in the Netherlands, we realized we couldn't really buy it anywhere. It was still quite a few years ago. And there was one online place where we could buy it, but we couldn't really see where it came from. So after that, we lived in Nicaragua, and we decided, okay, we're going to go ourselves to the farms and see if we can find places that we feel are a positive, regenerative place for the people and the nature, and that we can get the cacao from and bring it to Europe in a way that is supportive for both sides. And that's how it started, really. Just from a passion and falling in love with cacao. And Erik is really Erik has his nose for finding beautiful places and beautiful quality cacao also. So he found these beautiful farms, and later also in Guatemala and Peru. And we traveled there to get to know the people, and then started to bring it to Europe.
It's really nice because I've been buying your cacao quite a lot in the last years. I tried different ones as well, and here I found a girl as well who sells cacao, which I'm really happy about, because the transport costs from bringing the cacao from the Netherlands to Greece is extremely high, so I can't order with you now. But what I realized is that when the different types of cacao, yours is really, you have certain types that are really subtle but really tasteful, because sometimes the cacao is really, really bitter, but some of yours are really, really not sweet. I mean, they're not sweet, but they're just really, really subtle, and they have a I've done some real creative writing on the on the cacao.
Beautiful. What do you notice? What happens when you say this?
Well, when I was writing my first novel, I was not in a very good place myself. So and then a friend gave me one of your cacao hearts. So she just do it. And I was a bit afraid because I didn't know how it would react, because I had never done anything with plant medicines, or I've never smoked a cigarette or whatever. So I had no idea how my body would respond. And as I didn't know how to use it, I just took half the heart and drank it, I think, in one cup. And I was just like, I went completely sort of mad because it was too much, because my body can't handle the large amounts of cacao at once. So after that I started to like being a bit afraid of using it, and then I started to take smaller doses. And when I did that, I just started my day with a small cup of cacao and then writing, and my writing was just over. I mean, I can't even imagine anymore that I was writing that with the cacao, because I've written a lot of soul's messages. Some of them are in the book as well. And those messages were so loving, so kind, so powerful. So I just opened up a new, like, sort of, what do you say, vein in myself. Like there was a new creative, something new was born in myself. And so I started writing. So I really loved what it did for me. It opened my heart, not only to myself and the world around me, but also to this part in me that wanted to create.
Wow. Yeah.
And it just wanted to get out. And the cacao really helped to move into the process and to start seeing myself as who I truly am, which is a writer. And not that I want to put labels, because I'm a lot of different things as well, but writing is one of my ways to express myself and to share with the world. And the cacao has really been a positive motivator to embrace that part of myself. Yeah.
That's beautiful to hear. Yeah. And it feels like, cacao has its way to bring focus with whatever you are doing or connecting with in the moment. So I can imagine that if you're preparing it before you're going to write, it can really help you to get into sort of a bubble with the writing.
Yeah.
Also, it's super subtle, but I've really noticed in my work that it really gives this positive mindset. So the way it works in your brain, it's really this like gentle support of, hey, you can do this, even when it's a bit scary, or hey, just try, just do it. It's like it's supporting you a little bit in that way, and in a very loving, like playful way. So it's I really feel it's such a gift. Yeah,
me too. And I remember that when we had our first phone call to make the appointment to do this podcast, we talked about the idea that I mean, if we want to have this green, beautiful, ideal world, I mean, it would be nice to have things that are local, or like not coming from all the way from South America to to Holland, for example, because of the travel, the distance and how it gets here. And then I really liked your answer, because you said maybe now we need this at this time in our life. We need this in our lives here on the other side of the planet with this beautiful plant medicine. And I was like, wow, that's another way of looking at it, because as we are talking about it now, I really see that it's such a heart opener. And if more and more people become more loving, more kind, more then we can create this world where we talked about in the beginning, like being present and start doing things from being. And so it really changed my view on, okay, I feel a bit ashamed that I have this beautiful plant medicine. It's not coming from around the corner, but it's coming from like far away. So you really helped me to open up. Can you maybe explain a bit more how you got to that vision?
Yeah. What comes up for me first to say is, for me, it really helps to. There's all these questions I also have about, should I fly to Mexico to learn about the tradition there? Because I'm taking an airplane, and I also feel different things about that. And I don't have an answer. And what helps me is I really think it's very important to keep an open mind and to stay aware of what we are doing and to do the best you can at every moment with the most loving perspective. And I feel what happens when I think this is bad, then I close. It's not I feel it's very helpful, and I really think it's wise to keep things out of the good and bad, but just to keep looking and being aware of what is happening. Things are so complex in this world. We often really don't know exactly yet what is right or wrong. I actually truly feel there is no right or wrong in essence. So that just comes up for me to share. And I think it's most helpful to look in every moment what is right now the most loving step. And for me and the whole, and often that's the same thing, I believe. Okay, so that's about that. And then with Pure Kakaw, we have a strong vision and mission to contribute to the reforestation. So there's all these plots of land that have been degenerated by monoculture and by ways of using the land too long in a way that's not regenerative. And the farms that we work with specifically are regenerating the soil, and the people who work there are paid well. It's sometimes people say our cacao is highly priced, but this is a balanced system. We are paying the places there in a way that is sustainable, and that it does cost money to reforest our beautiful planet. And one beautiful thing is that in Peru, we planted the trees. We planted the extra plot of land. They are using the money that comes in from our project. They're using it to reforest a big plot of land there. So we planted trees together when we were there last year, and it's such an amazing. That feels like the circle is round, and it's not. We are always looking for ways how can we belasten, like how can we we're just looking for ways how can we make the most positive impact. And I can imagine, like right now I see there's a lot of interest in older cultures that are maybe right now more alive in like Latin America and all and eastern parts and Far East. But I'm also seeing that the eyes are turning more towards where we are living now in Europe. Like, what is the ancient culture here? What are the plants and the things that are growing around us that are healing here? So I think we're just learning from each other through in the whole world, I think. Maybe cacao is a bit more present right now in Latin America, and we can pick up that tradition and bring it here and learn from it here. But also we are learning more and more with each other about what are ancient European traditions and how can plants and herbs and medicines here from the earth, how can we work more with that? So I think it all helps each other. And right now it seems that as for cacao and what it brings, what I see in people when I get really so excited from inside is this really compassionate a loving way of looking at ourselves and being with ourselves. And I think that's such an important step in being with whatever it is that life brings us, also the difficult and more dark things. To look at things that are dark and difficult, it's very important that you can be in a loving space, I think. And that's something that cacao can really offer as a support to how do you do that? How do you stay open? How do you stay aware from your heart with things that are really difficult to see? Yeah, I think in that way, cacao is a beautiful help.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And thank you for that, because I see what you mean, that because of the traditions from other cultures, because of the traveling that we can do, we bring it here, and it's like a what would you say, a co-creation from bringing things from abroad to your country and see how it could be. And I really love to see more of that, instead of seeing other, I mean, you so often see that there, oh, he is from another culture, or comes, and we can learn so much from each other. I see it here in Greece as well. I was talking to a guy a couple of weeks ago, and he said, you are really reacting to our culture with your Dutch mind. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's probably true, because I've lived in Holland for 40 years. So and he said, I want to listen to you, I want to learn from you, but you have to see where we come from. So I say, okay, so tell me where you come from. And then you get this mix. But oftentimes what I see here, it's that people still look at you as a foreigner, and you don't know what we are going through. So stop. And you see it, of course, in Holland as well. I've seen it so many times. You are a foreigner, so I don't want to talk to you because you have a different way of thinking, or you don't belong here, or whatever. But I think the beauty of being different is learning from each other and growing together in creating this more beautiful environment with each other. Because I think that the ancient wisdom from everywhere, wherever it is in the world, can learn us so much about how to create a more sustainable world.
Yeah, and also make us remember what wisdom is already within us right now. I think it's so beautiful what you're saying. I really feel we're so rich with all these different cultures and ways of different perspectives that we have in this world. And I feel this comes down to that notion of, I truly believe there's no right or wrong, or not one way. And that I've noticed that it can be difficult to stay openly present with differences. Definitely, they seem to be like in contrast with each other. But often, if we ask from really a place of curiosity, hey, why is that important for you? Hey, how come? Do you know? Then behind it, there's a very valuable thing that we can learn from. So I think it's so beautiful. If we learn to communicate in these ways, we can learn so much together. Like a beautiful evolving consciousness, really.
And that really takes time, which we often don't. Well, we say we don't have it, but actually we don't make the time to ask the questions. We just have our opinions, and then then we judge, good or bad. And I continue, instead of making the time to have a conversation about these things, these differences, and then learn from each other.
And it invites you to step into a place out of your comfort. So often a bit scary to welcome a different perspective. So it's interesting. That's why I think feeling, which is also something that cacao really invites, to feel what is there. I think feeling is a very important step. Like really daring to just feel, not go into the story that can be connected to it, but really feel, oh, what happens when I'm confronted with something that makes my worldview change? Okay. Oh, maybe I don't know. I think in the essence, we can gain a lot of freedom and very much empowerment by accepting the unknowing.
Yeah.
We really don't know.
No, we don't.
What will happen? I mean, our mind can think of anything, but if we can allow ourselves to be with not knowing, that can be scary at first, but if we can be there and just be with it, it can be such an opening and freeing state of awareness.
Yeah.
And from there, I think the actions that are important will happen.
Yeah.
Because then you are really present and feel, okay, if you're really in the moment and aligned in the now, here and now, not in a story about past or future, but really if you're here, daring to feel whatever is there, which can be confronting, then by just letting that flow through you, then eventually you will feel, oh, there's a pulse coming and an impulse for this movement. And I really trust that kind of movement, that kind of do.
Yeah. It's beautiful because I've just realized in that sometimes from you start doing something. I mean, right now I try to do everything from this presence, and then you start moving in a certain direction, and then suddenly something completely different happens, what you didn't expect actually, but might even be better than what you were starting in at the beginning. But you have to go into this, you have to follow this urge to create something, to set something in motion, and then everything can come along, but you still have to remain open and not think about, okay, this is not good because I was planning to go this way, and now something else comes along. and I really like to be open to all these kinds of things that just can happen, even if you didn't think about the opportunity to have them.
Yeah. Well, you're really saying the whole time things where my mind is like, I'm thinking of different. I have to think about the humbleness. It's really about surrendering. So what you are describing to me is like the creative processes of creating something. I often notice, okay, there's an impulse, we want to create something, or you want to create something, and then you start exploring, okay, and then there's often one point where you're like, I really have no idea what's gonna come out, and maybe I think I might not get there. I mean, I don't know, but if you allow that unknowing and that not knowing, and just allow, okay, this is part of the process to not know, then you will, and stay present, don't step out of the process, but stay present, then eventually there will just drop these knowing, like, this is it, and then it will come, so it's really inviting you to trust and let go.
And to take a step back, just take a step back and see, okay, I just don't know now, so I'm just gonna not do anything because I don't know. But this is difficult because this takes practice, because after a while you start to understand that trust is the most important. So surrender and trust, because when you do this a couple of times, you know that the answer will come. It only won't come. It won't come at the moment you want the answer. Last week I had like a whole day that I was like, I want the answer, and of course it didn't, because I told myself it's not going to come today because you and I was like, okay, I'm surrendering to the not knowing, and then at a moment that I didn't expect it, the next day, it's like the drops you just explained, they just come falling down. Like, okay, I knew it was going to come, but
so great, right? And then I also loved what you said about you can think, I want to create this, but with your mind, you can often not life can surprise you with such a more beautiful, more creative, like I love how life can surprise you with even more beautiful ways that you could never have imagined, you know? So it's really, it's really I love life in this way. Yeah.
I had one more question, and I think it's because before in our first phone call we talked about the importance of visualization to create other worlds, and you told me that you were doing this a lot, and I just want to I'm just interested in your perspective on this, and how you do this for yourself, and how you work with others on this, and what comes from it.
Yeah, from working with visualization to create.
That were a lot of questions from my part to you in
yeah, but I have a feeling I know. So one thing that I have just noticed, that my body and my being just seems to think a lot in visual images. So that's something I notice, which makes it for me, well, I often have in my life that I just somehow see a situation pop up and as a possibility. And so yeah, that's just what I noticed. So if somebody is listening who recognizes that you just, when you're walking through the street or you're having a conversation with somebody that inspires you, that you see an image and you feel sometimes a similar image the whole time coming up, then for me that is a notion. Okay, maybe this idea wants to happen. And for example, when we had the cacao bar in Westergasfabriek, I still have this image, so I think it may still happen, but I have a feeling later. I kept getting this image of a beautiful place in Amsterdam and also in nature somewhere else, a space where there's a place for a cacao bar and a beautiful, like, healthy food, living room. And there's also, when you walk through, there's more workshop spaces that hold beautiful, like a beautiful cocoon for practices. And then there was also upstairs, there was like a studio area where artists could work. So I just kept having this image of this building, and I just start sharing it with people. That's how I work with, if I have a specific idea that comes up the whole time, I just start sharing it with people that I've really intuitively. So if I just feel, oh, it comes up now when I'm talking to you, okay, I'm just gonna share it now. And I started doing that, and then somehow I was already in contact with Steve, Annie, and Lieke, which who are working a lot with meditation and working with the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And we had like they went on. They were like, yeah, we're also looking for a space. So then it became a co-creation, and then later we with the four of us managed to set up a beautiful space called Tendi near Westerpark, with a studio in there and a practice and a living room. And so then it suddenly happened, you know. So it can happen. So for me, and it's not like it has to happen. That's a very important thing. So I feel if an idea wants to manifest, it will find its way. And if you give it attention and share it with people that you feel resonate with it, then maybe you can create it together. And so also with the world that we want to create, I have the feeling for human beings, it's important to have examples. Also, like if in your life, if you have mentors and people who are living in a way that you find inspiring, looking at these peoples and feeling them and sensing how they are doing things can really help us to change things for ourselves in our lives, because we have an example of how to do it in a different way. Because right now, when you walk outside, there's one world and one way of living, and if you want to change it, we have to nourish different ideas together. So in that way, I think it's helpful to, if you have inspiring images or thoughts or ideas, to take time to listen and to see what is it that I'm seeing, that I'm feeling, what is this idea telling me. And then if you feel it's ready, because sometimes it still wants to be in cocoon, but it's ready to come outside, then just feel, okay, who do I want to share this with? Where does it resonate? And then together we can, if we're speaking and thinking and evolving our ideas to it can become little plans and then realizations, I think, eventually. Yeah.
Really
is
nice.
Is this the answer? I'm not sure.
Sorry. No, well, yes, it is. And in the beginning you were sharing, if someone is listening and he recognizes it, I was smiling a lot because I have the same as you do. And for me it's even stronger because sometimes I see something and I even see it in my calendar. I have a sort of, I think maybe some more people have this, but I have a sort of circle in my head. I see it all, which is the year. So in the top is the summer, and then so it goes around. So if I see something that I want to create, I see it in my calendar. It pops up somewhere, and it's really strange because most of the time it happens exactly then. And this I find it's a bit scary because it's so clear that sometimes I think like, okay, I'm just waiting now for something, and I know that it's going to happen. And in the past, I was going to force it. And I have it now.
Yeah.
But now I know. I mean, the calendar is really, really correct almost every time.
You learn to trust that inner wisdom. I think.
But I truly understand what you mean. That if you have a vision, or for me, it's not always a picture, but something is just words. But I know that I when it keeps coming back to me, I know I have to follow up. And I'm not always sharing things, but what I think the beauty about sharing it is, what you said as well, if you want to change something in your life, you need examples. So I think that in the world where we live now, with all the problems that we might occur, all the difficult feelings that we have within ourselves, we forget that we can share with each other, and that there are a lot of people, whether they are older, same age, younger, they have the same things. A friend of mine who lives here is reading one of my books at the moment, and he says, because I write quite personal, he said, I realized that your problems and mine are almost exactly the same. And he is like older than me, he's a man, but we come to the same issues in life, which is of course very interesting. So if we don't share what we come across, it's difficult to know that you're not alone with your issue or your feeling or your idea of the future. Because I also think that a lot of activists who want to change the world in a bigger scale, they feel lonely, and they feel like they're like in Dutch would we say the one person screaming in the Sahara. What's it called? The desert. But I think that there are much more people who think or feel the same, but they just don't know to express themselves in this. So when we are able to visualize this future life and share these visions with each other, we can see that we are almost all on the same page.
And I think voicing what is important for yourself. And then for me it's somehow important to say the invitation to not make wrong of other ways, but just to own your own feeling and wisdom, it like, I notice that this happens within me now. Then you can, I think it's a beautiful, important step. And I think it's happening more and more. I see also a lot more women, I have the feeling, voice themselves and connecting to the cycle and their cycle and the wisdom in that. And I think that's a really important step for the transformation also.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm really very excited for this time.
Yeah.
Good. And to live now.
Sorry?
Really also, and to live now. I really feel it's such a gift to live.
Yeah.
Just to live and to live now. I really I think I would want to invite everyone to dare to listen within, and mostly I've helped me most to look inward and not outward. Just see what is happening within me now. If I run into something that I find difficult in the world, what is it that is happening within me? And can I be with that feeling and feel what is the message and the wisdom in there? And then from there, voice it if that's the right moment and time for it. I think that can really help us to connect with each other and from a connection with ourselves. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add after this beautiful conversation we had?
Well, I really just want to thank you for I actually am I hear myself speaking with such a like, yes, of course you should like voice yourself and share, but I notice that I am often like in the online world, it takes me I don't share myself that much actually from myself. I need the invitation. So I want to thank you so much for the invitation that you gave me.
Very, very welcome.
And also I see that you're following a beautiful path in your heart, and I'm so happy to see that also cacao has connected you in a beautiful way. And thank you for sharing all your wisdom. Yeah.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you want to know more about Imagine a World, please check the website. Imagine a World is a place where people share stories about the world they would love to create for themselves and the people around them. I'd love to see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening and have a great day.